see it, it's in here. I go through a survey with them, and we talk about what they need to run, what they wanna run, and we kind of accumulate watts, and then we kind of give and take, and they end up choosing, you know, the size, which helps them in this process. They're buying into what we're doing and how we're doing it. You know, the 5-star, we have 5-star technician support. So what I mean by that is John, like Lee said earlier, John has been certified as a level 1 Generac technician, which has been a big part and a big tool in the selling. And I'll explain to you how I present that in the homes. You know, our quality installs, you guys will see some pictures of those, and you'll see my presentation and how those are presented in there. Great reviews. I mean, the generator reviews have been some of the best that I've ever seen. Here you go, Nick. Thank you. So they're some of the best reviews I've ever seen from, I mean, we had one where John spent half a day there because the meter that came in from Detroit was the wrong size, you know, so he just basically waited for another meter, you know, and that was, got a great review for that. You know, we're not just going to a job site and leaving when we're done, or everything's not there, you know, we're not moving, we're staying, we're committed to the work. He's got the truck stock, so when he got certified, now on his truck, he has maintenance equipment, he has service equipment, he has all of the, I call them tools that you need to do a startup and diagnostics and things like that on his truck. He also has equipment on the truck to make the install more efficient. So his truck is stocked. Yes, Joel?
So they need to be maintenance annually? Is it,
There's,
or-
in the service manual, there are service steps. So yearly, there's a battery maintenance that has to be done. Basically, you're inspecting the battery, make sure the nuts and bolts are tight and it's not getting corroded. The generator's gonna tell you if the battery isn't charging. But if this yearly maintenance is basically a visual inspection, check the nuts and bolts. You reset the timer on the top for another year. The next battery, I mean, the oil change, I think is 250 hours. So that's three weeks, I think, of 2 or 3 weeks of continuous running. So if it's just starting and stopping and running, say 5 or 6 hours, maybe 10 hours a year, you really just, you don't need an oil change for almost 5 years.
Okay.
They recommended first oil change at a year with the factory oil, then every 2 years.
Right. So one of the things I learned from John Moore in the class is, I went to a Generac class at Johnstone about 3 years ago. And they in that class, they said, yeah, just, you wanna change that oil to synthetic, right? I mean, everybody wants synthetic oil in their engines that are starting in the winter. So we were always changing the oil at no cost. We were having Kyle go out after 6 months or something and change oil. When John come back from his class, he says, well, you can't do that, because that oil that's in those generators has to stay there for a year. It has some kind of lubricant in it, so we're gonna change that, something that we just started talking about. We're gonna do a birthday oil change. So a 1-year oil change, we'll go back and change oil to synthetic then.
That's why I brought it up, because if we're selling all these, it's important that we maintenance them.
Right, and exactly. So we're pretty aware of the maintenance requirements.
Okay.
What I like to do is show the value of that service partner plan with that, because now we're coming and looking at your generator twice a year. We're also looking at your furnace and your air conditioner. So we sell quite a few service partner plan memberships when we do generators.
Make sure you put sparkling water back on when you maintenance them, otherwise.
So, I mean, yeah, right, there's not much maintenance other than that. We program to exercise once a week, which is a requirement by warranty. So, I'll just keep going. If any other questions, just raise your hand. So we have a licensed electrician that also helps with this. So, the electrical part of this, Mark Joseph supports us with. He's a licensed electrician. He's been in business, I think it said 28 years. and he's installed many generators himself. So having an experienced licensed electrician with us to do the, work with John and do the startup and do all the electrical work is a big benefit. One of the big benefits of LASCO is when we go to a job site to install a generator, everybody goes at the same time. We don't have somebody that does the install and then somebody else later that comes in and does the electrical, and then somebody else comes in and does the startup. All that stuff is done, in most cases, all the same day, and by the people that are there doing the work. And that's a big benefit, because I've heard horror stories about that, where somebody will go in and install a generator, and somebody comes back and does a startup, and something's not right, and now they're pointing fingers at two other people that were there previously. Now the homeowner's gotta figure that out, so that's a big benefit. John, one of the things that, when I present in my presentation, I tell the homeowners, is that John's certification is only to support the LASCO installed generators. So we don't subcontract John out for any generators that other people have had installed. So for service or support, if somebody calls here and says, hey, I see you guys sell generators, you have a technician to fix my generator, we don't do that. If they're on a service partner plan membership, we will. But we allocate John to just the generators that we install, which is a big benefit, because if you own a generator and you have to call somebody for support, it's likely Wolverine Power out of Grand Rapids, and you're gonna wait in line for a while. Yeah, Chris?
So if we got an SPP member, as long as it's, and we didn't install it, as long as it's a Generac, do
I
we
would-
service them?
You know, where we would have to make that decision in here, because there's a lot of generators that have Generac engines in them. So just because our generator says Honeywell, but it has Generac engine in it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it doesn't say Generac, it might say something else, but it might be, I don't know, man, I don't know if Briggs and Stratton doesn't have Generac, but
No.
there are many other brand names that have Generac engines, so, and you won't know that. So I would just at this time, we will service your generator. And yeah, I mean, just because John, I don't know, if John's not qualified in this other generator, I'm sure it's enough to get him by to do an oil change, to do those things, so. What was it, what we're here, question?
I just have a really good customer that she bought the generator, we gas piped it, a different electrician hooked it up, but she's a really good customer, but she won't sign up for the SPP.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd take care of her though, you think, or? Cause she was asking about service down the road.
Is it a generator?
Yep.
You'd have to ask Lee, I'm sure he
Okay.
would. Again, she's a good customer, she doesn't want, you're gonna keep working on her with the SPP, eventually, she'll see the value in that.
Yeah.
Especially when that light turns yellow and she doesn't know what it is, it's just gonna have to call.
And it already, like a month in, it vibrated the unit, that's why you gotta hook the flexible gas line to them.
Yeah.
Internally, it had a leak from like a gas line, and she thought it was due to our gas pipe being in, and when I found the gas, I'm like, no, it's from the factory,
Yeah,
that it was, I just fixed it.
yeah. So, yeah, you can ask Lee, I'm sure that something like that, where she's your existing customer, he would do that. But it's the selling value for us. If somebody's gonna run off and have an electrician install a generator and have them do a half-ass, startup, there's a lot of value in having John be a part of that. Oh, let's see, so 5-star customer support. So Lee and his team are going to make sure that everything runs smooth. So what I mean by that is, right now Jesse hasn't been trained in some of this, I'm sure, but Lee's taking care of it right now. But from making sure that we get there with all the right equipment, to making sure that the meter, if the meter needs to be upgraded, is upgraded, making sure that our electricians are there all at the same time is very important. Lee does a lot of working with the gas companies to make sure that the meters are timed, this is all timed correctly, and it does really work very well. Let's see what else here, so Lee also handles all the warranties, he'll take care of that, he helps with financing. So basically, I tell the homeowner, really the hardest thing they've gotta do is pull out their checkbook. I mean, that's really, and let us in the door. I mean, that's, everything else is pretty much, we're taking care of. And that's another advantage to when you're working with an electrician, because they're just not gonna do those things. Presentation, so on the presentation, from 2018 to now, I've gone through and done a lot of training for myself. I've learned a lot more about the generators that I didn't know back in 2018. Carlos at Johnstone's been very helpful with me, helping me understand things. And with John getting trained, he's been able to explain to me things that he learned when he was there, and things that, because I write down everything, and I'll always find out, well, you shouldn't have done that, or this is, I find out those things, and that open dialogue really helps as well. I do a show and tell, so what that is you'll see this in my presentation, kind of what I do and explain to the homeowner. So I go through a process of educating them, I show them some pictures and explain things, I do a survey with them, and then we go for a walk and try to figure out where the generators, they want the generator to be. I go through and do my survey on the electrical and the gas stuff. And what I do is, I do a survey on all the gas-fired appliances in the house, along with the generator that they choose, and I add that up, and I make sure that the gas meter is sized properly. So those are all things that I do when I'm there. What was that?
Piping?
Piping, yes, all the piping, I make sure, I actually go through and do a rough calculation on the existing piping. I primarily look at the total, but I have found where inside the house, gas piping has been wrong. And then I give them a choice if they want that fixed or not. But what our intent is, we always connect to the meter. So no matter what we do, our goal is always to connect right at the meter where we got the most pressure anyway. So we're the first pressure too. We've had a few homes where they had an extensive amount of gas usage in the house that they would normally never use when power went out. So and then they chose not to or couldn't get a meter upgrade, so we kind of explained to them. I always do something in writing, some instructions in writing. If they lose power, what they can't do, which is real helpful to the homeowner. This one homeowner had like 4 fireplaces, and they had 2 water heaters, and they had all this extra gas that they really wouldn't normally use when they lost power. So we just went through and educated them, and actually ran some tests in one house. We ran gas pressure tests in the house to make sure everything would work. So when we see problems, we make sure that we can do everything we can to avoid having a problem.
Does the gas company charge for?
Meter upgrades are somewhere between $300 and $600, something like that, Lee?
Yeah, usually $485.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard.
It's gigantic.
Have you done
Yep.
the installation?
Yep. Those are,
Are those
we
easy?
rarely have to have the regulator replaced on those, but we always check. We get the homeowner's gas company, and we just call and find out. It's something we always do.
Okay.
So let's go to the next page. And this is, now, I'm getting into just some education now. What are the benefits between a portable generator and an on-demand generator? And again, you guys, in the house, my intent here is only at the end of your call for you guys to pull out that brochure and just present it as something. I'm not asking you guys to sell anything in the house. I'm just trying to educate you so you know, if homeowners ask you questions, you know a little bit about these things to give them some simple answer, okay? So, again, portable versus whole house. So, electrocution, so if they don't if they're powering their whole panel, backfeeding their panel with a portable generator, You know, the process of turning off your main, if they don't turn that main off, if they're tired and they get up in the middle of the night, they don't turn that main off and they're powering the whole grid, if they're backfeeding into the main, you know, if they electrocute somebody, they're liable for that. Also on top of that, when they get powered back, they'll go off and fry their generator. So there's a risk of damage to things that they don't know what they're doing. On the whole house generator, the transfer switch takes care of all that stuff and there's no risk at all. Power surge, I just said that, power surge of the generator is that if you turn, let's say you're going through and you got power again and you're shutting off your generator, you're turning on your main, if you don't do that sequentially correct, you'll burn up your generator too. Let's see. Dirty power, so your portable generators, you know, they're just not real good at controlling the frequency of the power that they're outputting. If something's sitting for a long time, it's not being exercised, it's not being properly maintained, you're gonna get dirty power. Where on the whole house generator, the generator and the transfer switch have safety items that monitor that and actually tell you that if that's going on. You'll get a yellow light on the generator. Time delay when the power goes out. So when you're in the houses and these homeowners have these pumps running all the time, you know, a time delay, for a manual generator, I mean, could be 20 minutes, could be 15 minutes, up to if they're not even in the house, you know, who knows how long it would be. So have a loss of power, having something automatically turn on is a big benefit. The generators we install, I think 15 seconds, John? You know, what was it? 30 seconds. So 30 seconds, the generator's on. You know, I mean, I don't know what's, when those sumps are filling up with water, is 30 seconds long enough?
Does it?
Most of the
If
time.
it isn't, then they need another one. They need more pumps.
Right.
Does it automatically switch over then?
Yes.
Yes, yep. So when you lose power, and I'll go through some of this in my presentation, and part of the education I do with the homeowner, when you lose power, that the transfer switch disconnects your power from the utilities.
Okay.
It turns the generator on.
Sure.
Generator does a self-diagnostic, everything's fine with it. It tells the transfer switch to apply power, it applies power, and then it feeds the house. All that happens within 30 seconds.
Goes through its own little purge cycle and then boom.
Yeah.
Cool. I thought that was the case, I just wasn't sure.
No, that's fine, yeah. So the exercise schedule, so on portable generators, you need to exercise a generator routinely to make sure that the magnetics and the electrical charge costs, I don't get too technical because I don't know it, but the parts that create the electricity have to exercise to create its memory, to keep its memory, kind of like a battery. So the magnets, I guess, inside, if they're not exercised, they're not gonna efficiently generate electricity. So that's why you have to exercise these things and apply some kind of load, even if you're plugging in a drill or something for 15 minutes, let it turn on, run, and so that when you need it, it's working. On the Generac, or on our generators, we program them to exercise once a week, which is a requirement in the warranty. What is something a little bit different that we do that John learned from going to the class is there's a whisper mode on these generators that really turn it on at a low noise volume or low RPM. And John said that that's not good for the generator because you're not blowing out all the condensation. So we turn ours on and exercise at full power, which really is the best way to do that exercising. I like to turn them on at noon on Monday because then if there is something wrong, they got all week to get it fixed before the weekend. I really don't like Fridays because if that light turns yellow on the generator and now it's Friday and then we're trying to call. So I like Mondays, but we let the homeowner pick, you know, when that is, but that's what I like. Maintenance schedules, so, you know, I mean, that portable generators, really, they treat them like red-headed stepchildren. You really don't do a lot of maintenance to them, you might have old gas in them. But on the Generac, they do that startup, they do that exercise, there's a red, there's a green, yellow, red light on the outside. Green is good, so green means it's done its diagnostic and everything is right. Yellow means that there's some maintenance that's required, but it'll still run and still generate power. And then the red means that something's drastically wrong, that it's not gonna start if you lose power. So you get a visual, right on the outside of the generator, you only have to open it up and look at it.
Are they equipped to alert you on your phone if you don't?
There is I call it OnStar for a generator, so the Honeywell has Wi-Fi capability. So you can get this subscription, it's $50 a year, that you can manage your generator on your phone, tablet, computer, whatever it is. It'll send you can program alerts, like when it starts, it stops. And when you open up the app, it's green like your light on your generator, or it's yellow like your light on your generator. It's kind of really cool the way that works. It'll give you event history. Yes, it has very detailed for $50 a year. Or you can get a free subscription. John's connects the generator to Wi-Fi, signs them up for this Honeywell app, and they get a monthly report emailed to them. It's just a basic status report. It'll tell you what color the light is and things like that. So you can get an email like that. There's 2 ways, or 3 ways, right? Visually looking at it, getting that monthly email, or being able to have a subscription for something special. The fuel, like I said, old fuel, putting the regular fuel in there, letting it sit there for 6-8 months, it's just, that it's just not good for the generators. The fuel for the Honeywell, the natural gas, it doesn't get rotten. You always have a constant supply of that. The propane doesn't get bad. You just have to make sure that you monitor the propane usage. So what I do in the home with the homeowners is if they're on propane, I explain to them that they should probably get some kind of monitoring system for their propane usage. So if they're out of propane for 3 days, they might be running low on propane. So it's having something that monitors that or alerts them to that is a big deal. I think we just did one that had that alert system on their propane.
On their tank?
Yeah.
Oh, they just put one on my parents.
Most of your appliances, if your propane is under
The
like
propane
5 or
company put one on
7%,
their tank.
there's not
They
enough
have a truck
pressure.
that's
in it.
driving
by.
Anyways.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
It's
So
picking
They'll
up
go
and
out
saying,
and
hey,
look
these
at,
people
it's
need
got
to
a
be,
little left, it's like,
you
no,
know,
no,
need to top up, because they're on a keep full.
I'm
Yeah,
not getting
so you can
11
get-
inches of water column, it's not gonna happen.
You can get monitoring systems for your propane tank to alert the propane company or alert yourself.
My parents have one on theirs.
So we had one that we did, that one guy, he was gonna go to propane. Yeah, and we calculated 4 days, he had a 22 kW and a full tank of propane was gonna last for 4 days or something.
Seriously?
How big was the tank?
Yeah, right, but that's full power, 22 kW, that's the largest one.
Right, it's a lot of.
Are you talking about the big white round sits?
Yeah.
That thing will go out for 4
Okay.
days?
Well, you gotta remember, it was a 22 kW, it's the largest generator we have.
Uh-huh.
And it uses almost 400,000 BTUs an hour. So, but that's a lot of power too.
It's running a
That's
big house.
Big house.
Most homes
sure
don't
is.
support
That's what my parents have now, they got a
Most
500-gallon tank,
10 kW,
so
right?
it probably won't last very long.
Tanks last a house.
What's the average size?
Sucks through it.
What's that?
Well,
Sucks through it,
when
so
we,
that's running everything.
when we are in the house, and I'll show you this on my load calculation, I try to talk about the need, what do you need? And that gets a number that's very low, right? And that generally gets you to a 10 kW.
Okay.
Then what I talk about is things that you won't be able, see, then I walk around the house, right, and I see other things that they have. And then I talk about what that's gonna do, you have, and I break up, and you'll see this, but I break up their usage by cooking, their needs, the furnace, water heater, refrigerators, I do that. I go, this is how many watts you're using that if you're gone, this is what you're gonna use. It's automatically gonna run, you're out, this is it right here. This is your cooking number, and then this is your miscellaneous. I break it up like this for them so they can see it. And then I explained to them, because the air conditioner will load shed, so what that means is we wire it into the transfer switch. If the generator has power to allow it to start, it'll start. If it's using too much power and it can't start, it won't start. So it kind of a protective measure to get this, to avoid blowing a fuse on the generator. So when I explained to them, in some homes, that air conditioner will run when they need it to run. In some homes, it won't. So I explained to them the likelihood of you being able to run your generator, your air conditioner during the day is very low. And we get talking about that and why that is. Then I see them going to a 13 kW. Or if they're at a 13 kW and we do that, then I see them going to a 16. Very rarely, I mean, if I get into a house, in most cases, somebody will say, I just want everything to run, and then we're into the 22 kW. I mean, that's kind of how it works. But most homes we're probably doing 13s, you think? Huh?
Yeah.
13s mostly, and it's because they could have done it with a 10, but they want that air conditioner to run a little bit more.
I want to get this so my kids don't drive me nuts.
So sizing, we go through a sizing process, and I'll show you that. CO poisoning, so, it's, I can imagine it's cold, it's snowy, and you lose power, you're just gonna crack the garage door, you're gonna try to face the exhaust out underneath the crack, and you're gonna turn your generator on, you're gonna go back to bed, right?
I'm gonna put it in the basement.
So there's a big high risk of CO poisoning, when you're doing that. Most people aren't gonna wheel it out into the snow or the rain, they're just gonna leave it in their garage. Where we install these, we have code requirements, certain distance away from windows, venting, and John meets and exceeds all those code requirements. So, and then everything gets inspected to make sure it's all in right. But we don't have that problem when it comes to installing the generator. So, next page. So how can you help? So this is something that you need to look for. And again, you're doing your job. I want you guys still to focus on your job. I'm not asking you to change anything. It's just a matter when you're walking through the house, when you get to certain parts of the house, if you see things, these are your red flags. And I don't know if you're gonna get in the bedroom, if you do that or not, but, CPAP machines in bedrooms.
I'm trying to avoid that situation.
I've talked to, hey, I told my wife I get into every bedroom within 10 minutes. But CPAP machines, people that have these CPAP machines are really worried about losing power. I mean, they fall asleep, they lose power, the mask stops pushing air through their nose, and it's just kind of a fear to some people. You see oxygen tanks. The manual battery-powered oxygen tanks, people don't like them. It's not the same oxygen, so they don't want to be on it. Most people with oxygen will try to go to the hospital if they lose power, so that's pretty significant. They don't want to be on that battery power, and the battery-powered oxygen doesn't last very long. And what I've seen is they're in the house, they got this big tank that's generating oxygen through the electricity. So that's all they have, other than a battery-powered unit. Those battery-powered units don't last long, so they have to go somewhere when they lose power, and it's most of the time it's to the hospital. The elderly, they don't want to use the portable generators anymore. My father-in-law has one. I went over there, I wrote instructions for him, written instructions, he still can't figure it out, he's always calling me when he loses power. So they just don't, there's a fear of theirs to put something and power something through their electrical panel, so they just don't like it. They don't want to deal with it, and they're afraid of it. Any other medical problems that require consistent electricity? And some of these you guys might be asking questions, just doing your own job, and you might get answers to some of this stuff. Portable generators in the garage. If you see a generator in the garage, that's a good sign that they're using it to power stuff. A lot of times they're covered up, so you can't see them, but at least if you see them in there. Homeowners that leave for long periods of time, multiple refrigerators. And you'll see those, you'll be in the kitchen, you'll be in the basement, you'll be in the garage, you'll see freezers, refrigerators. Water pumps in the basement, I mean, you guys have seen all that this year. High water table, and you know that in the areas that you go into. Rural areas, they lose power a lot. Hot tubs, you know, you hate to have a hot tub outside in freezing weather and lose power and then not be, have the thing freeze up on you. So then, okay, what questions to ask? Now again, these questions are, I'm giving you these questions because I found these questions to be helpful when you're doing your own surveying for your work, plumbing related, heating and cooling related work. So it's not, I'm not asking you to ask questions for my leads. Yes, Connor?
So like in a hot tub situation, would that be another instance in which you're amping up to a
Well,
higher generator?
So what I would do is,
Cause those run on 220
let's,
as
for
well.
that example, I go through my survey, they say I have a hot tub, we calculate the energy usage, and they don't wanna go up to the higher number, right?
Right.
So now this thing's automatically turning on and off. We have a module, it's a power management module that we can put right at the panel that will shut that off when they lose power. And then I tell them that, and then that's on them to make sure that they're aware of that.
So does it kick on every once in a while then?
Nope. We can
Do
load
like the
shed it.
AC?
We
Yeah.
can load shed it like the AC, we can just shut it off, but if there's a risk of something, we don't. I mean, it all depends on the survey.
Hey Joel, all that module he's talking about, it's load shedding on the high voltage side. That's all it is. Does the same type thing.
So, this is one of the questions that I come up with, and you guys could probably think of some other ones, but what do you do when you lose power? Reason you're asking that is you have the Leak Smart you can talk about, you have the temperature sensors you can talk about, you have Wi-Fi thermostats you can talk about. And then at the end, when you're all done, when you pull out your generator brochure, you can say, well, during the call, you know, you mentioned that you leave for the winter, I noticed you had 2 refrigerators, you know, this might be helpful to you, you know, that kind of thing. So again, these might be questions that you guys may normally ask during the call. Do you leave your home for long periods of time? So that, for me, is all the same as above, but also for air quality, if they're leaving for the whole winter, how do they get their filters changed in their furnace? You know, so there's some air quality questions there that you can, good reasons for you to ask that. Are there any medical concerns in the home? So again, it helps with the generator leads, but also air quality, water treatment. So there's always multiple uses for these questions that you guys have. Is there any other questions you guys might find to be available that might be helpful? No? Okay. And this is, again, this is my note down at the bottom. At the end of your call is when you present this thing. You know, at no time do I want you guys to talk about generators during your portion of the work that you're trying to do. Only if they ask, but I'm just saying is that this is just my intent is only at the end here. So, so this is some information about me. So when you guys are, I'm sure in some of your training that you've had, when you're turning over leads, you want some kind of credibility statement or something that you want to say about me or Nick when you are helping them gain confidence in us coming in the house. So these are some things about me that maybe you didn't know. I've worked at LASCO since 2014, but I've been representing LASCO in generator sales since 2016. Only if you trust me, if I'm a guy you would trust in your home. You know, if you don't trust me, that's fine, then don't say that. But yeah, I'll give you 10, 15. I go in the bedroom because I'm looking at registers, okay? But I'm knowledgeable in the product, so like I said, I've done everything that I can to understand how these generators work. I've gone through some schooling at Johnstone, I've worked with Joe's on electrical questions I've ever had. But I have wired homes, I've done a lot of electrical work, I think I've completely wired, I think 3 homes. But also help, electrical through, with family and friends. So like I said, done some troubleshooting electrical. At every home, I open up the electrical panel and make sure inside looks right, everything's right on the inside. Let's see what else, gas consumption, so I really do a detailed, gas consumption review. So here's the survey that,
Hey Rich,
Yeah.
how many electricians know how to do the gas piping?
none,
They're not supposed to.
none. And I don't know how many times I've been in a house after an electrician, and they said, well, they didn't tell me I needed this new pipe from here to here, and they didn't tell me that I needed a new meter.
Remember the one we went to that the electrician gas piped it and it was all wrong?
Yep. Yeah. Yep, so, I mean, those are things that, electricians, they don't care about. I mean, I was doing I did, 4 bids at a dead end in a condo, 6 bids, dead end in a condo. And, all of them needed modified gas piping, and none of the other proposals had it. So, I mean, it's a big deal. So this is what, the front of this, okay, there's 2 sides to this. The front of it is more of a, this is what I leave with the homeowner. This is actually the page that I use to present and write my pricing down. So they have a reminder of everything that we've talked about. These are the generator sizes at the top. Down the differences, because I want to get through my presentation, so I have about 17 minutes, I'm gonna speed up just a little bit. The differences and features are some of the things that set us apart between the Generac and the Honeywell, so that's what that is. Why Lasco, we talked about those things, but trying to add value, and I'm trying to, when they're already, once they're talking to an electrician, these are all things that they're gonna either wanna try to find out from them, or see it to we're setting ourselves apart from them. So then, on the generator, the Lasco generator package, okay, so these are all the things that they get with the generator. So we're gonna size it properly. So on the back of this sheet, we go through together the sizing process with them. And they make that decision on what they want and what they need. The transfer switch does the load shedding, and I'll show you and I explain that. Heavy duty cement pad, so we put this on they call it a hurricane-proof cement pad. Now, John, I tell them that you bolt it to the generator to the pad. The Generac pad is cement, and it has threaded holes in it. We're now mounting the generator to that pad. So I've seen some generators where they'll vibrate a little bit on the pad, and then that gas pipe might get shifted a little bit. Well, we're bolting the generator to this pad, so now it's not going anywhere. Plus it adds about 250 pounds of extra weight to the generator. That's why they call it hurricane proof.
I tried to pick one up. So, John laughed at me.
So that goes back to the cement pad, heavy duty battery. I don't know, Kyle, have we ever replaced the batteries since, I mean, so we've been installing generators since I've been here and before that, and we haven't replaced the battery. They're trickle charged from the transfer switch, always trickle charged, so they don't go bad.
So they're maintenance free, we don't have to add it?
No, they're maintenance free. Yep.
Tim, we had to replace the battery on that one though.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the code on it.
Yeah.
How old was that generator though?
Oh, shoot. I don't remember off the top of my head. But
It wasn't one of ours, but.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, it was 5 or 6 years old, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so they last. Well, and this thing, I don't know if the transfer switch was charged to the battery either.
Right.
I mean, you don't. Cold weather kit, so we include in our price, a cold weather kit for the battery, which is a pad that goes underneath it. And an oil heater, which wraps around the oil filter, and it's all heated when the temperature drops, it's powered through the transfer switch.
So what voltage does that run on
That sounds like a technical question to me. Is it, it's low, it's gotta be.
Run on the power supplied by the transfer switch, you
Yeah.
really don't need to know.
It runs off the house power.
that? Okay.
Let's see here. So again, electrician is doing the install, the electrical work, proper size gas pipe. That Wi-Fi I talked about, as long as the Wi-Fi can reach out there, we'll hook it up. The touchpad, you unlock the top door, there's a computerized touchpad on the top. If it needs maintenance, it's gonna tell you. It's where you program everything, it's all computerized, up and down arrows. It's very easy to get through. The manual kind of walks you through all that. Color coded status on the outside, which is what I've already mentioned. Install program test by certified Generac technician. So again, that's John. So in this sheet, you notice I say it twice. I'm really laying heavy on our certified technician. And I talk about the warranties and making sure the warranty's intact because he's doing that install and it's being done correctly. Because if you have a warranty call, you know, they're gonna want evidence that that was done. All those things are a big part of the value. The exercise is set to when they want it. Now, there's 5-year parts, 1-year labor. Sometimes they have promotions where we give that to them at no additional cost. We take care of all the permits, warranties, rebates, and not rebates, but anything that has to do with this project is a guaranteed price in writing. So that's that. Then we go through the survey. So this is where, again, I'm filling this out, and this is the sheet that we use to do my gas survey. You can see it on the right. I write my meter down, the gas meter, the panels, everything, all the information that we need. And I'm doing all my survey on here, and I have a separate sheet that I use to draw the sketch of the location of where the generator is gonna go. I record a video to let John see what I want him to do and where I think it should go, and any special things that it needs to be to his attention, and then we watch that before the install, actually before the orders everything. But this is where I go through and do the survey. So I talk about running wattage and starting wattage and explain how that works, and we go through this survey. We write up down the bottom the lots that they need, and then they just carry the decimal over 2 points, and that's your kilowatts. And then that's where we talk about the things that they need to run, and they wanna run, and then they go back to the front of the book, and they look at the different sizes, and then that's kinda the process that we use for them to pick what they wanna do. And normally, they ask me for 2 or 3 sizes, and I go through and give them prices for 2 or 3. If there's anything that I missed, or there's not, then there's a way for me to calculate wattage down at the bottom. And what I do is I take a picture of this, and I keep this, and I give it to the homeowner. Let the homeowner have this, because they made this decision. They said what they were gonna use. Because see, I always do this, and I always walk through the house. Then I look at the panel. That's where I find if they forgot to tell me something. You know, like they forgot a refrigerator, or I've had a lot of different things come up. I've had one house that had a steam shower, you know, so I find, when I walk through the house, I find the things that they tend to forget. You know, we bring those up and we just determine what has to be done. So that's everything. So this is like kinda, after we do the survey, then we kinda go for a walk. And that's where we pick the location of the generator. We like to be, perfect world would be by the meter and the gas meter. The electrical meter and the gas meter is the perfect spot. If we can't be there, we would rather be by the gas meter, because that's where it's more expensive to run gas line than it is to run electrical line, so that's what we would like. So this is, I'm gonna only have like 10 minutes, so I'm gonna kinda go through this a little quick, but when I go through my presentation, this is only my heating, this is my heating and cooling portion. this is my beginning portion, and then just the generator. So I talked about the company a little bit. This, I just noticed when I looked at this, I gotta get a side picture of John's van to say Generac on there. I wanna get that, take that picture to put this in here, but this kinda gives a little history of Brett and the company. This gives a little history about me. So again, I've worked here since 2014. I worked at Kadine Corporation for 30 years and then retired as a staff sergeant out of the National Guard. But I've gone through either school training or Johnstone training on everything on the right-hand side. I've actually done some generator installs, so I'm familiar with that. Here's a picture of the company that I talk about. Now this, I get these, some of you aren't on this, but that's because you're not on the website yet. So as soon as you're on the website, I get you on the family picture. And then I have our heating and cooling department, and I specifically show names and faces here because these are the people they're gonna meet. And then there is a slide about, what's the difference between companies that just install equipment, which is above which is right in here, which is, what you see on the iceberg. Everything below is more of the value of what LASCO provides. Now we take pride in our work. So these guys do an excellent job. So so I talked about these. So the reason this generator is facing this window up here, it's hard for me to point. There's a window right up here. You see that window? Because that's where the light is. The lady washes her dishes and she wanted to see the light. So that's why we did that. And it says, so just so she didn't go outside much. This other house on the right-hand side, these are the founders of Wesco. So the dad that founded Wesco, that's his house. He's passed away. And she wanted to make sure that generator ran that fountain in the pond in a bit.
I know we ran they ran a whole new
Yes.
tank,
Yeah.
a designated tank for that.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, so they got their own damn.
So this is my second slide in my generator presentation. So this is where,
She runs out of gas, it'll be a problem.
this is where I talk about John and his training and what he's designed, how he's designed to support just the LASCO installed generators. Talk about the value, the warranty, support. Talk about ensuring that your warranty's intact when he does the startup and things like that. This is a picture. Basically what this does is I'm able to explain to the homeowner, I have a hard time with my arrow, but up here on this corner right here, what I explain to the homeowner is, this is your power right here coming in from the utility and it goes in your meter. Normally that would come out of your meter and go, and the other one going to the ground is your panel in the house. So that's normally how it's set up. When you put a generator in, we bypass the power coming in. So the utility power comes into the panel, comes out of the panel, and it goes through the transfer switch. And now that power always is running through the transfer switch and then into the panel. And that's how you monitor the power, how the transfer switch monitors the power. And then this is finally when the homeowner realizes that that generator is powering the whole house and not just what they picked that they needed. So that's a big help for them to understand that even though they said they wanted to run these things, they still can run these other things, but they just gotta be a little more conservative on when they do that. So that's a big help. And I think that's everything that I talk about on that one. Here's a picture of, this is actually the one Kyle and I did, the very first install that he sold, right Kyle?
Yes.
And November 14th. Yep, November 14th or November 15th, him and I installed this.
It wasn't November 15th.
It was like early, I know, right before
I know that
November,
because
I
I've
think it
been
was the
here.
last day or something. So, we did this, and I show this picture because, and then I talk about the noise level of the generator and how quiet they are. They're quieter than, they're quieter than air conditioners. So they run just about 62 dB, which our air conditioners run at 72. They're quieter than lawnmowers, weed whackers, half the noise as a portable generator. The right side are the guts of the transfer switch, which is normally always covered, so I just wanted to show that.
Is
It's
the
how
noise level more specific to Honeywell? Or is it Generac, this is quiet?
You know, Generac and Honeywell are pretty much the same.
Same motor.
Probably 1 or 2
Same
points
unit.
difference on the Honeywell, just because they put more insulation in it. But there are other generators that are noisier, and there are other generators that are a little bit quieter. So, but when this is running at high power, the way I reference it is if you have a neighbor 20 feet away and you have to talk to him and he can hear you, that's about how loud this generator is. That's the analogy that I give. So that's not really loud. This is right by our window, we're in our bedroom.
My neighbor's deaf though.
That's good. But I also use that, I also use that picture to show how easy it is.
and it's all good.
I also use that picture to show how easy it is to get to the maintenance work. I mean, that front door comes off and everything's right there. Some more pictures here. This is just some nice installs. This is on the side of the hill. So you guys did a nice job of making that look good, and that's nice and sturdy in there. This is on the right, some underground work that we did. Just some other nice looking installs. But there are some code requirements that some of my, every once in a while I'll forget one. But there's a certain distance you have to be from windows, usable windows, any ventilation, and the gas, you have to be a certain amount of feet away from the gas meter. The client, you know, your electrical meter, you have to be a certain, you can't be in front of that. Now, this one is, right, this one is, but there's a lot of distance behind it.
Top right one, 'cause you can see how straight the damn generator is.
So here's one here, this one here on the bottom, I think we had to do it, we had to, the guy wanted to be there, because I think he had 4 pumps running in his basement. And he wanted to witness a power outage to make sure that he didn't flood his basement. And it didn't. But that pump, those pumps were running non-stop.
Yeah, he had such high water that we had to do a portable generator while we had the power off to wire the existing generator. Otherwise, his basement would flood.
This one, Kyle, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
I
don't
have
forget
it
that
in
one.
here. The lady you and I were talking about.
Okay.
What, Nella Horiak?
No, the one that you
Okay,
just
Giles.
sold.
Oh,
Area.
Sally Hall.
That's right here, that's his bottom one.
Mm-hmm. He's in the low zone.
So, we do have homeowners that have said, hey, you can use me as a reference, and we have those as well. And any questions? Now, one of the things I didn't mention here is on the back of your very back page of your slides, I put in here, I called Lee this weekend, and he approved, normally your splits are $100 a lead, like sold, and he's bumping it up to $200 for the rest of the year.
Is that retroactive?
Oh, I already got $200 every month.
Is that retroactive like Sally Hall?
That's a good deal.
No, you already paid them, right?
So any
Oh, no,
questions?
that's this month, yeah.
Hey Lee, do we have like a cut sheet like this that we can give to the homeowner that's in our packets? I don't even know if it's in there maybe, but it would say
No,
like,
Rich and I are working on it.
that
I'm
would say
thinking,
why Lasco,
Yeah.
because we bring a whole lot more to the table than it appears like a lot of other.
Yeah, that's, Rich and I have been talking about it and trying to work up
let me
something
ask you, do
that's
you
kind of
think-
custom to that.
And water treatment.
Yep,
And I think if we had one for both.
yeah.
we'd-
It
just
feels
that we
less
could-
marketing, feels
Do you
more,
guys think,
uh,
I'm kind of.
more unique.
I talked with the Nexstar marketing person, and they've given me some ideas to change this, to give it to you guys. But if we put this in instead of the Honeywell brochure, would that be beneficial?
Way better.
What about with the Honeywell? What about
In
with?
addition to
Can,
it, but I-
in addition.
Yeah, I wouldn't wanna
I'm just
pick
trying to
Honeywell
avoid stuff in
brochure
the
out.
package, because now you gotta find 2 things in there to pull out.
There's probably stuff that we don't.
I'm out. I'm leaving.
Any questions?
I'm headed out.
No? All right, well, thanks a lot, you guys.